What up, Jamaica? Good afternoon. Good evening.
Evening. It's
It's
evening.
evening.
It's Focus
Friday.
Friday nighttime.
All right, the nighttime summer edition. How that
Summer
sound?
edition. I like it. I like it a lot because we have now switched it up a little bit for the
Summer night
summer
edition.
summer night
Summer
edition
night edition. You know, the sun's still up. It's still a beautiful evening.
for July
Weather's
and
great.
August.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
I'm loving it.
Is a good day. Um, as always, we have a lot to talk about. But it's exciting because our quick community calendar is happening right outside our office
Right
right now.
outside our office window, right now,
Right
there's
now.
an amazing event happening downtown Schenectady. It happens once a
Absolutely.
year,
Yep.
and that event is called
Summer night.
Summer Nights.
It's called
Schenectady Summer Night. They've got a bunch of vendors out there right now. There's a nice sized crowd, as you can see.
Yep.
They're going to do fireworks. I believe they're starting a little late. You just have some elected officials walking and talking, shaking hands with folks. Some different organizations represented there. All kinds
That's
of
what it looks
resources
like.
for the community.
There
It's
it
pretty.
is.
It's pretty nice, and it's like from City Hall straight across J Street over
Over to State
to
Street.
State Street.
Yeah. So if you're
It's a lot
trying to
going on.
drive in downtown Schenectady
Yeah.
right now, don't. If you're looking for parking in downtown Schenectady,
It's tough. It's going to be tough to find parking down here. There's
Yeah.
a lot of people down here, and
Yeah.
I'm sure people traveling from all over the place to come attend this event. Like I said, well attended, lots of food, lots of activities. They actually got a rock climbing wall,
they do.
right?
Yeah.
And
I saw
and
that.
there's some kids that are working that over there closer
I
to the
saw
walkable
that.
side of J Street.
Yeah. It looks
It's really
dope.
nice, man. It's
Looks
nice.
dope.
I love to see it, and I love people having a good time, enjoying themselves. And it's not as hot as it's been.
No, it's not as
So
hot, and
we
it's
enjoy
gonna
it.
be going on for a little bit. It's gonna be going on for the however many hours it's going on for, and then tomorrow at Jerry Burrell Park,
All right.
Culture Fest 2024, Hamilton Hill Arts Center puts it on every single year. I don't fifth year maybe.
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
I'm glad they're doing some stuff over there.
Yeah.
They need to do more. I'll be honest with you.
And so at 2 p.m., Jerry Burrell Park here in Schenectady, Culture Fest 2024, music, artists, all the vibes. It's going to be on and popping. In Our Own Voices has Jazz in July. It is a very musically inclined time of year.
I mean, music is the universal language. It makes sense.
It is. It is.
Blues.
Saturday, July 20th, starting at 5 p.m. In Our Own Voices, Jazz in July. You can still get tickets. So hit up In Our Own Voices and get your tickets. Jazz in July goes to a good cause in the work that they do for a community that deserves it. And then our boy Adonis, of course, last Friday of the month, Lucid Voices open mic. Friday, July 26th at Electric City Barn, starting at 7:30 p.m. I appreciate that he's been highlighting different local poets.
Yeah.
And then it's still open mic, right? So we get to lift up a local artist, then hear other people, some we've heard before, but quite often folks that, haven't necessarily stepped on the stage before.
You know what I love about Donnie as well is that he's consistent.
Yeah.
Right. Like this has been his dream and his passion, and he's been pushing it for a while now. It's only getting bigger and better every time around. People can rely on, these events coming and having an opportunity to voice their talent in front of a crowd of folks. And a lot of times his auntie comes in, cooks some really great food. It really just makes it known. So I really do appreciate the barn there and having that space for these type of events. Like we're very familiar with the barn. We've done some work in there as well, right?
Yeah. I'm just
but
waiting
it's the
for
summer
you.
night grooves though, right? Summer nights.
I'm waiting for you to get on stage.
I've been on stage
again.
Well, that's another topic. That's another topic altogether, man. I don't know.
It's community news.
Yeah.
If you want Sean Young to read a poem that he has written,
I got some stuff too.
I know that you do, and I think you should share it with the community.
I think deeply.
I know you thoughts. Do, and I think that you should share. So again, good evening to everyone. As we get started. There's a lot to talk about, as there always is, and I say it all the time. We're going to talk about local gun violence. We also are going to discuss. What was it? What are the things?
What are
what are we talking about today?
I mean, there's so much to talk about and so many things that keep coming up. We have an extremely important election coming up at the end of the year. We have the Supreme Court decisions and the Supreme Court potentially shifting based on people retiring. We certainly have gun violence in Albany. I don't know if you all have heard, but 6 young teenagers from ages 19 to 15, I believe, were injured.
You jogged my memory.
Yeah.
You did.
Yeah. So good. That's
the local gun violence.
That's the whole point.
The fact that businesses feel like they don't need to do DEI anymore. They don't need to be anti-racist. A national organization. We're going to talk about that. And then why elections matter.
Yeah.
Because it is beyond November. While we have an election in November, the impact that it has is long lasting.
Yeah.
And also, what it means to be the right Black candidate.
Interesting.
That's a lot.
Interesting.
That is a lot. That's why I couldn't remember all of it, because it's so much that we have to talk about.
I want to just get one more thing for the community news and just events.
Yeah.
We're past the date, but Alive at 5. KRS-One.
Yeah.
Live at 5 in Albany. KRS-One was there. Ray Frazier
got
on stage with a piece of art.
Yes.
I just seen that today, so big shout out to Ray Frazier.
Yes.
Got some of her work up here somewhere. Amazing.
The dream hat.
Yeah, amazing talent from the city of Schenectady, mind you.
Yeah.
Doing their thing. I think she deserves the accolades and the prominence, and having an opportunity to be up there with the brother. I really wish that I could have been in the crowd to see KRS do his thing, because he's still going home. Like all these years, he's still going hard. So that's it.
Yeah, no. It is worthy of an interruption. I'm glad that you did, because while Alive at 5 is happening in Albany, it is also again about elevating those local artists and voices who are interacting. We bring these big names in. We got big names right here.
That's right.
Ray Frazier's a big name. Y'all better recognize.
Ray Frazier, Donis Richards, all these folks are big names.
Yep.
Paul Collins Hackett, like these are big names. People.
Batman, Albany
right?
wouldn't know who we were talking about.
True. Got to call him Batman.
It's Batman in the Justice League.
I don't know. We got a lot to talk about.
We do.
Up with that brother too. But let's jump into it, man.
But Albany, we're starting off with local news that's not on the positive side of things. That there was a shooting a little more than a week ago in Albany, and young people, all under the age of 20, had been shot. No life-threatening injuries, thank goodness. Somebody forgot to silence their phone. No life-threatening injuries for the young individuals, but still a terrifying experience. They were at a 4th of July party, Myrtle Ave, in Albany, and shots fired, and there were multiple teens that were injured, several of them being from Schenectady.
Yeah. So so let's talk about that real quick.
Yeah.
Right. So you've got, I think 3 of the young folks were from Schenectady, 2 are from Albany, and another one in Troy. And it's an incident that impacts literally like the entire Tri-City area, entire capital region.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's nothing new. As egregious or as bad as it is, and they're calling it a mass shooting in the Times Union, multiple victims and shooting overnight. It's not anything that's brand new to our area. These shootings continue to happen.
Yep.
I know there's organizations on the ground doing the work to call it out and address it, put the guns down. Snug is one of the ones that does that type of work.
Yeah. Eva
but
Bass
what is it?
Has
Eva
a march
Bass.
Also. Yeah.
Urban Grief.
Yeah.
They do work. Lisa Good and her team.
Yeah.
But it's like, what works? What doesn't work? These things keep happening. I think we were called out for soon to be former District Attorney David Soares called us out as representatives of BLM, talked about like, hey, but they don't do a march or a parade or anything for when these type of things happen, right? So let's talk a little bit about that.
So one, not true, right? David Soares cherry picking, what he gives attention to, and what the focus of Black Lives Matter has been, as well as just community groups calling for safety in the community, and that it does encompass gun violence. One of the things that comes to my mind whenever we have these conversations or whenever these events happen, and they happen on a regular basis, is this is a society that absolutely prioritizes violence, except for in certain circumstances, right? So this idea that young folks, I don't know why they're picking up guns and why are they shooting at each other? What is the foundation of this country?
Okay.
Violence.
Yeah.
How do police interact in our communities? It is violently. It is violent actions against us in our own communities, because where these violent acts are happening or where violent acts have happened. I by no means condone the acts of violence that are happening. There have been too many lives that have been lost. And for us to pretend that these young people are not simply emulating what they are taught is something that we need to address, because violent acts will perpetuate violent acts. So if we're going to condemn violence, we need to condemn all violence, and we need to look at the opportunities for young people to be able to express themselves, to be able to communicate with one another, to be able to have dispute resolutions. What does restorative practices look like? It's a lot. It really is a lot. And we can't cover it in less than 30 minutes.
We can't. And I would say, I mean, I agree with you on the point that America loves violence. It was born out of violence. It's continued to commit acts of violence.
Does it internationally?
Including myself, were a part of violent acts when we were younger. There's a lot of things we taught. I think on another level, though, right? I think like people like David Soros or like BLM doesn't stand up for people that get shot. That's just ridiculous. Of course we care. Of course we want things to change.
Yeah.
I think, but a lot of what BLM does, a lot of what our work is, it's a lot about systems change.
Yep.
Because we're trying to address the conditions in which these behaviors are, we find to be there more likely than not. When you bring in, when you sprinkle in poverty, when you sprinkle in police violence and police surveillance, you sprinkle in a type of approach from different leaders in the community that kind of demonstrates or communicates that you're less than or not as valuable.
Yeah.
Right. And you limit opportunities. Right. And you kind of segregate these populations in the way that we do. And you have this long history of this of this being this way.
Yeah.
Therefore, these lessons become passed down generation after generation. And like they're growing up in a society that supports it on one level, right, and condemns it on another.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not necessarily that violence that they hate, is who's committing the violence and when they commit the violence.
Right.
Right. So like, we have these, we have a very deep-rooted issue that going out and like locking everybody up ain't going to solve.
Right.
That just simply having a conversation with one young man or a group of young men is going to solve. There needs to be commitment, serious investment, and an understanding of the history of how we got here if we're ever going to have any real change. And so in the immediate, something terrible happens, and then everybody comes, we got to do something now. Like, you got to recognize that acute moment is a symptom of a much deeper and larger issue.
Yeah.
And like addressing the symptom is not addressing the cause. And we need to figure that shit out if we're going to ever change, our communities for the better.
And we have to be able to challenge our own thought process. When there's gun violence, some of our folks will say, we need more police.
Yeah.
We've always had more police. I don't know a locality in the capital region that hasn't increased the police budget year after year after year after year, that hasn't increased the number of officers on the ground year after year after year after year. If it was that we needed more police to end the violence in our communities, we should have the safest places, right?
In the entire world.
But where are the safest places, Sean?
I mean, this is something that we've talked about a lot. We recognize that the safest places in this country, in these communities, are the places that don't have the police but have the things they need.
They have far less police, but they have.
There are communities around this. There's communities around our country, around our state.
Yep.
You know, there's a place down in the Hudson Valley, Tivoli, New York. Like it is. Everyone has the things they need. People are working different jobs. They got money in some way. They own their homes. Some kids are going to school because they go to Barnard College campus. Many of them, you know, they don't have any of the issues we have here, and they also have very little. They have to contract with other communities they don't have their own police force. Because they don't have their own
police force. Right.
Right. To come do patrol, and mostly that's just about breaking up a party or handling traffic issues.
Right.
So it's like,
but we have to know that.
You have to know that. Talk about you have to think. You have to, like you said, you got to address your thinking.
Yeah. Well, in the meantime, while we're over here trying to remind people that an increase in policing has not decreased violence, as a matter of fact, we have an increase in violence because of police violence. That is still a reality in the capital region. It has not disappeared since 2020. Yeah. It is not gone. We still have legal knee to neck holds here in the city of Schenectady, regardless of the data and the understanding of the risk to life. And we are watching in some ways a rollback to some of the equity and anti-racism that we had fought for, right?
Yeah. You could call it a backlash, a white lash, or just a change in focus and intention. And like, so many of the gains we have are now are under attack.
Yeah.
Right. You saw affirmative action partially fall in some way. You saw Roe v. Wade fall. I saw in the news the other day, some school districts in Virginia have renamed their schools after their some Confederate officers that they were once named after, saying that they want to hold on to that history. It's important to us to be able to do that, and it should have never been changed in the first place. So like those things that happen are now under attack and being changed bit by bit. And if you're not careful and paying attention, right, we're going to be in some serious trouble. You want to talk about Tractor Supply and their policies.
And it is part of that, right? Because it is all connected when we look at what's happening with the Supreme Court and state and federal legislation. So a national organization, Tractor Supply Company, put out a statement, and I'm going to share it here on the screen, that said, the short version, this is the full statement, but said, we're not worried about DEI anymore, and we're going to get rid of all of those positions. We're not going to support anything that's outside of our business model, including pride events. We no longer are going to aim for our climate justice targets. We're not going to do those things. We're going to focus on business. We're going to focus on rural America. And that's our goal. And that's our mission. And that's how we stay true to our customers. A little problem with that, and anyone can, see this full statement, because I'm going to share it with y'all so you can see it, is that it neglects to think about the Black farmers, right? So while the Tractor Supply Company has decided we need to stay true to our values and to our customers, it forgets about there being Black farmers, or the need to address climate issues for the sake of the farmer, or that DEI is not some anti-business model.
It's actually proven to be the more diverse of a company you have, the more profitable you are. That's not. It's not about any of those things.
Right.
So much as it's about holding on to this old racial hierarchy or old way of doing things, regardless if it's more beneficial to me or not. It fits with what I want to do in my world outlook. Right.
Yeah. And apparently it also was in reaction to some conservatives that were calling them out because they had DEI.
Oh, well.
So they were reacting to.
So it's a little bit deeper in the story. Okay.
They were reacting to conservative activists that said, what are you doing with all this DEI? But Black farmers had reached out to them, and John Boyd Jr. is the president and founder of the National Black Farmers Association, because there have always been Black farmers. And he said, I was appalled by the decision. I see this as rolling back the clock with race relations because the country is so divided on race, especially in rural America. There are Black people in rural America. There are LGBTQ people in rural America. So we talked about previously last week the Supreme Court rulings.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a big jump for us to recognize that decisions that are being made at the Supreme Court level are beginning to impact how local businesses and organizations operate because they think they don't have to.
And here's the thing. There was a gentleman on some show who said this, and he said that, you know, he started his career, he had been in business for a while, and his son was one of the first generations to actually have the access to some of the opportunities able to perform. He was a Black man, and his son is Black, and he said, you know, that him being an affirmative action hire at one time of his life said nothing about him and everything about the system and everything about the people. Like, because if you didn't have that, you wouldn't even consider me.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So it says more about you than it does about me, about my ability to do this work and my ability to actually fit or progress this business, that we have to have these type of hires in either in our colleges, as far as access is concerned, and as far as hires on jobs. And I think that was a very relevant point. Like, as you're seeing now, if they don't have to do it,
they won't.
If the regulators don't force them to do it, they won't. Capitalism isn't about playing nice or being fair or anything like that. Capitalism is about power and hierarchy and money, right? That gives you that power. So it's going to likely get worse before it gets better. We are in a very kind of fragile time. I think people are paying close attention to federal politics and always never paying attention to what's happening in their own backyard.
Yeah.
Which is unfortunate, because if we took care of our own backyards, if we took care of the local community, and we addressed and we had the spirit of doing good by others, of diversity, of accepting, not just accepting, but being welcoming and honoring diversity and difference amongst us, right? And understanding that all our voices matter, all of us make a difference. Yeah. You know, we did those community, we get to that larger change, I think.
And that's, again, I think
too much money in this, man. Too much power.
Whole other conversation about how politics and decisions and lobby groups that represent businesses and organizations are fueling our political decisions, right?
Yeah.
Even though the representatives are supposed to represent the people, who has their ear? And so this business now has felt as if it can just get away with, I'm not doing DEI anymore. And in the same week that it said we're not going to give money to outside interests, it also said there was conversations about it supporting the Black farmers. They said we're not going to do that now, but they gave $1 million to a veterans association. So they are willing to give to outside.
People are making choices.
They are making choices,
right? I've kind of, like, at this point, kind of cut through a lot of the language, the word soup, right? And to get to the points of that really makes sense to me, because it's not about what someone says, it's about what they do.
Right.
Right. And what we're seeing is that there's a lot of words like being bantered around about justice and pride and nation and honor and all of this crap, while the exact opposite is happening in the actions of people. And I'll be honest with you, I know that there's a lot of anxiety in different, spaces around our community here in Schenectady and the Capital Region and beyond. It ain't too late to do something about it.
Right.
It's not too late to get involved and to step up. It's not too late to find your community of people who care about the things you care about and band together and work together in order to address the changes that y'all are looking for. It's not too late.
Just like
as bad as things are.
Yeah.
Like, the only way forward is is working through the people. There is no, savior on a white horse coming to save the day. It's something that we need to do collectively and need to understand how much. Listen, check this out, right? During this last 4 years, the rich, the 5 or 1%, have more than doubled their net value. While everyone else is losing jobs and losing money and in crisis, they more than doubled right their worth.
Yes.
Right. There was I'll say this really quickly because there was a comedian. I really got to get the names and I'm going to bring people up because it really does make sense.
We'll come back
but he says I'm watching the news and I'm watching this fight on migration and other things, and what I'm seeing is you have poor people mad at other poor people don't have no money, mad at other poor people who don't have no money because they think that somehow they're impacting the fact that they have no money, but they're not looking at the people who have all the money as being the damn problem.
Yeah.
Right? They're not looking at saying like, look at all these people with all this money, billions upon billions and billions of dollars in our country.
Yes.
And it's like we're not paying attention to that. We're arguing with other poor people.
The Walton family, their portfolio expands and they get more and more money every single year. They have the greatest growth than they've had ever, while everyone else is getting less. And our elected officials make decisions about the policies and practices and who they benefit. We often hear, we're going to give a tax break to so-and-so so that they come here and have a business and then it's going to generate revenue. Where what we know is when people who live in communities make more money, they spend more money in their communities. They keep it in-house, which is why you complain that construction workers come into Schenectady from other places and then take their dollars back home.
Get paid really good money to do work around our communities. And this is not to knock them for doing work and getting paid.
Right.
But what does that investment look like to the residents and the training opportunities for us right here so that money stays here, circulating here? But
and how do elected officials then hear our voice?
Well, this is what I the point about like people with no money and poor arguing with other people with no money who are poor. That's the point I'm trying to make, right? Like if we're just on this level seeing a bunch of division or arguing and bickering and fighting amongst each other, right?
Yeah.
We're not ever going to be collective enough to address these larger issues because they can make the decisions that they make and the issues that they make it. If we're just silent and sitting by, acquiescing, trying to fight for our own little scraps, instead of realizing like, wait a minute, there's more to this pie than what we're fighting over, and we should be demanding more as a community. And I'm not saying, what I'm saying is there are opportunities for people to have businesses, opportunities for people to have the type of life skills, and trainings necessary to actually build in their own community. There's a $600,000 $600,000 person need in the construction industry across the country. Certainly right here in our own communities. Like the unions are always looking for more and more people. Why aren't we creating these feeder systems so that people can invest in their communities? So not only does it allow us to circulate those dollars, it allows us for us as a community be building in our own community and therefore taking ownership and having connection, right? So to me, it makes sense. I've talked to multiple like legislators about this type of stuff and like what we could do. It really goes back to the same thing. And there's a percentage that might get jobs, but I want to see something happen more robust than that here, where we're actually growing those type of opportunities for folks.
It has to be a priority. There has to be that motivation to get it done. And we know from experience, the same way we're talking about grassroots organizing for anything else, mobilizing and collectively working together to show elected officials, I'm paying attention. And there are multiple ways to get that done. And one of those ways is through local elections and state elections and federal elections. It's why elections matter. It's not because they have been this great equalizer. There is a history of folks fighting and dying for us, literally us, to have the right to vote, to be able to exercise that right. And while everyone is fussing over November and the presidential race, which is important because, just really quickly, let's, look real quick at these folks right here that are, that are currently our Supreme Court justices and making decisions every single day. And were appointed by sitting presidents, right? 3 of them were appointed by a Democratic president. one by Obama. Wait, is it? No, 2 by Obama and 1 by Biden. The others were appointed by Bush and Trump, right? So we know that whoever is in office next could very well have an opportunity to appoint 2 more lifetime seats, because there are a couple of these folks that are getting up in years. Judge Alito and Judge Thomas are getting up in years and may be considering.
Alito.
Is that his name?
Yeah, Alito.
Oh, Alito. My name's better.
I was like, Alto?
It's a singer. It's a new singer. Yeah. They're getting on in years and may potentially be looking to retire.
Yeah.
That's 2 seats that could potentially be appointed by whoever is president next. So these are things that we very much have to be concerned with and thinking about. And what that means for us locally is the number of people that show up at the polls in November, our local elected officials look at. They make decisions. How many people showed up at the polls? Who do I have to actually talk to? Does it matter if I go to this neighborhood or that neighborhood? Yeah. They pull the rolls. They look to see who's showing up and then make decisions based on those numbers.
Where they going to invest their time?
Where do they invest their time and energy?
And
who do they actually listen to?
The pattern has been very, very consistent over a number of years that I've been doing this. Certainly the many years you've been doing it. You know, certain areas, and think about this, right? In the communities where people are better off financially, own their own homes, a little bit more stable, a little bit feeling more safe, have not as much police activity, they vote the most, right? Period.
Access and opportunity.
And the communities that don't have those things, except for, maybe having more danger, like, more police interactions and just whatever, they don't vote a lot at all. So those communities' 20%. Voices are not heard when it comes to what we need.
Yep.
Like, they don't feel any danger of not doing the thing that you want because you don't show up.
Right.
So I'm really like in this conversation with you and talking about voting and talking about why elections matter.
Yep.
I'm really beginning to get to a place where I have to put more onus on our people to understand how important they are, right? Yeah. How this place belongs to you.
Yeah.
It doesn't belong to anybody else. It literally belongs to you.
Yeah.
And like what you could do with it could be amazing if you but chose to do so.
Indeed.
But because you don't believe that, and because you're so, because you're
for valid reasons,
for plenty of reasons that have happened through generations.
Yep.
But because you don't believe it, this is why the status quo stays the way it is, and this is why the elected officials will only go in certain places and will be like altruistically maybe show up somewhere at a moment to talk to people. And I won't want to say always, because it's not. I'm a little bit overgeneralizing about some of our officials because some of them really do care. But they need to be pressed and pushed. And they need to have
support. They also need support. Because one of the things that also happens is the political system, the way that it is, and the machines that run it, regardless of the party, right? Party politics are real, and it is a machine. And those individuals that may very well have good intentions and think, this sounds like a good idea, are also playing a political game within their own party.
Yeah.
And they know if I step outside the lines, I got to worry about whether or not I'm going to get endorsed by the party.
Yeah.
And if I don't have enough support from the community, do I get reelected?
I mean,
it's disgusting.
Yeah, that's right. And it's a calculation, but it's our reality.
Yeah.
I think one of the problem is that, like, if I talk to a bunch of 18 to 24-year-olds right now, they could probably tell me the top 5, top 10 basketball players, top NFL players, top rappers or singers, maybe some top artists. I don't know, something in around it. They could probably tell me that, give me their name, backgrounds, when they got started, what they did, all of that, right?
Yeah.
Why they're the best in this thing and why they're in this level. They can't tell us sometimes they can't tell us who the mayor is, who's on the city council, who's on the county legislature, who's their school superintendent. I don't know. But the emphasis, yes, one board member who's actually walking and talking to the community, the people's champ. But like you when you think about the emphasis we put as a society on all of this other stuff.
Distraction.
On entertainment and distraction, because why would they want us ever to be sitting down and thinking about how messed up everything is?
And it
right?
is
And how we need to change it.
And it is generational. And there is a lack of understanding of our history and the fight and the desire to be civically engaged because it impacts our daily lives. And we can be the individuals that change what our lives look like at that level. And
just last thing, shout out to the young people that are actually out there doing
oh my gosh, they're shutting shit
down.
Because
y'all are doing some amazing work. It's not every young person.
Nope.
I'm just saying it's too many that are not. Right?
I know a 7-year-old that has some questions for our current mayor. Well, we were talking about it on the way to school today.
Talking about the supreme leader.
We've decided no dictators. Okay. But in every demographic and in every age group, there are folks that are interested in being civically engaged and involved, that want to know, how can I be a part of something? Yeah. Guess what? Inside the chat is linked to Building More in 2024. Come and be a part of all of us. Ask us. There are ways to be involved, to be on the ground, to help us get the word out. Heck, social media. Do you like doing graphic design? Are you someone that likes talking on the phone and calling people? Are you involved in a house of worship and you want to engage with your church family and talk about this from that lens? There's so many different ways to be involved. Are you free on Mondays and want to go and sit at City Hall? Like, there's just a multitude of ways of being involved, and every single part of it is necessary. Yeah. And we can do this together.
We can.
We can.
We can. Oh, sound like Obama. Yes, we can.
I was going to say, I believe that we can win.
Oh, I believe that we can win. Yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah. And we're over on time.
That's all right.
The party's still going outside our walls. They're out there for Schenectady summer night. We didn't even get to talk about, the right type of Black candidate. We'll save that one. We'll save it. Because it's a whole conversation.
It's a whole conversation.
About respectability and who's allowed to be in a seat.
Yeah. I look forward to that conversation. We'll have more talks. I guess we're going to sign off for the weekend. It's Focus Friday, y'all. Sign our petition.
Oh, for real.
Sign the ceasefire petition. You'll see it on our page. You'll see it everywhere. Sign the people's petition, the people's resolution.
That's right.
On a ceasefire resolution in Gaza. Have your voice heard. Let people know how you feel, where you stand at when it comes to what the violence that we're seeing and the violence that's on our own dime. And much of that violence has so many parallels here in our own country. If you care about it the way we care about it, sign the petition. Have your voice heard.
Linktree, Untitled and Free. It's dropped in the comments. You can find all of our contact information for all of our social media and petitions and information. If you want more, just reach out and let us know. Until next time, 7 p.m. Next Friday.
That's right.
That's right.
Summer nights.
Summer nights.
Summer edition.
All right, everybody have a good evening.